Show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. Thank you for joining us. It feels like it's been a long time. This is kind of my new schedule. I'm on Mondays and Tuesdays, at least for this term. Jerome Maybear, who is the sane environmentalist who's picked up Wednesdays and Thursdays for me, is flexible. So next term, if my schedule changes, my days on the air might change. He's helping to accommodate my school schedule. So it feels like it's been a long time. It's like been quite a few days since I've been on the air. I'm very excited to have with us this morning Dave Parrish from Operation Save the Earth. His last videos, the last two videos, I thought myself personally were knee slappers. I thought they were really great. But thanks, Dave, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Lonnie. I love being on your show. Thanks again for passing me over.
Well, I love having your, I hope that you will come back regularly because I love you're so inspirational. You know, your last two videos were pretty interesting. A couple weeks ago, you gave a really strong Fuku Friday. He gives these short little, if you don't follow Dave, you're missing out. He's on YouTube. It's under Dave Parrish, Parrish, and he runs a website called Operation Save the Earth, and he's got 4 plans. You want to tell him what the four ideas are to save the planet, Dave?
Sure. You know, when the Fukushima nuclear disaster began in 2011, I looked at the severity of the problem and I said, well, where's our actionable plan? You know, everyone's going to want to do something once they hear about, you know, just how bad things are. And there was no plan in place, you know, just a cover-up, you know, that the governments were implementing. So I was like, well, okay, let's come up with a plan. So I tried to come up with something as basic as possible, you know, same kind of situation as if, you know, you had a house fire, right? If you need to know where the fire is, you need to know, you know, how to get the moms and kids out. You need to put the fire out and make sure that never happens again, right? So that's what I did with Operation Save the Earth. The 4 steps are you got to educate and safeguard yourself against the radiation that has come off of Fukushima Daiichi since 2011. We still have 1 million people living in Fukushima Prefecture today, and they are still living in highly radioactive areas.
There's 1 million people living there today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's still 1 million people living there, close to 1 million people living there right now. Yeah, and their attitude is, well, the government says it's fine, so you know we're just going to keep on smiling and keep rolling along. So you know that part of the plan is not going very well. That's the worst part of the plan because you know they don't want to leave the house. It's on fire. They don't leave the house, and you know that's the big problem. Of course, you know step 3, control and contain the situation at the plant. That's never going to be able to be achieved as long as Tokyo Electric Power Company is still in charge there and messing things up the way they have been for the past 40 years since they, you know, started, you know, construction and operation of the plant. They've been doing it wrong, and then after the disaster, they've been doing it extra wrong. So, you know, that's a big problem too. But step 4, making sure it never happens again. Nuclear power is over. We're making huge, huge strides in that area. We've come a long way with that, and I think the real trend there is it's like we were talking about in the pre-interview, Lonnie. I think the next generation especially is starting to really sour on a nuclear future for us. It seemed all whiz bang and cool in the 50s and 60s, but here in the 21st century, that is dino tech that does not work for anybody. So that's what the 4-step plan kind of looks like. And like I said, we've made a lot of headway. I think on steps 1 and 4, 2 and 3, we still got a long ways to go on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, evacuating Fukushima is probably not likely going to happen because you're fighting the Japanese, the IAEA, the military. I mean, it's...
Oh, sure.
But this is kind of my thing. I'm beginning to see this. It's been... I can't believe it, but it's been almost 7 years since Fukushima happened.
Yep.
And it is worse now than it was. And... they've basically just normalized radioactive contamination. They have almost stopped measuring radioactive contamination. They've stopped, like I reported last night on my YouTube channel about how now they're in complete surprise about the salmon collapsing. They're super stunned that we have these very low levels of mollusks, and they are blaming it on the blob. Yeah. Now, do you remember what the blob was when in 2011 and 12 we heard that there's going to be a Fukushima plume hitting the West Coast by 2015? That's what they said in 11 and 12. Don't worry, it's going to take a few years to get there. It's going to be very low level. And then come 2015, it transformed itself into, they have no idea what this is, but it's the blob. And now they're blaming the lack of the fish, the collapse of the salmon, the mollusks, the sardines. We mean, there's just no sardines on the West Coast. Right. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no fish in the ocean. The numbers are dramatically down.
Yes.
Dramatically. And it's probably not just caused by Fukushima.
Right.
But it's like I said to Dr. Chris Busby, you cannot tell me that 7 years of nonstop, over 100,000 gallons of radioactive waste pouring into the Pacific Ocean, nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the highest level of contamination we've ever seen, is not affecting the ocean. It's just, it's an impossibility.
Yeah, I mean, even from a scientific approach, I mean, you can't really just wish that away, and, all this, scientific, mysteries and being baffled by what's going on. From what I've been able to gather from the oceanographic community, so-called oceanographic community, is, they just go where the money is, and they don't want to ruin their reputations. They don't want to get blacklisted. They worked hard to, get this, level of stature in academia. They don't want to rock the boat, so no wonder they're, mystified and baffled by all this stuff that's going on. When any lay person out there can look with their own eyes and be able to see for themselves, that the Pacific Ocean is in a real crisis mode right now, and when is it going to end? Who knows? Nobody knows. I mean, you can make projections, you can have prayers and wishes. They're about the same at this point.
They're not even doing this is the thing. It's not that it's going to end. They're not doing anything to slow the train down. The shipping lanes are still doing exactly what they've always done. High polluters, high users of fossil fuel. That we're still pouring radioactive contaminated waste into every single waterway that is possible. I mean, it's beyond, and this is where, like, I've sort of, and I think I might probably speak for a lot of people, at a certain point, why continue? Like, what's the point? Like, at a certain point is like, it reminds me of what we think about with the pharaohs leading their people out into the desert, building these big, pyramids, having whatever happened out there. And yet we hear about these pharaohs who just basically stayed out there long after they had agriculture. People literally starved themselves to death out in the middle of the desert. That's kind of what we're doing. We're just following the pharaohs.
Right. So, what I like where we're heading now, though, Lonnie, is, we're moving away from that, especially with the next generation. It's like I've been saying, they have been so plugged into the technology. They grew up with their cell phones. They know way more than we did when we were kids, okay? And they see the light. They see the writing on the wall. They're not going to allow the ignorance of the past to guide them. And I'm telling you right now, I'm predicting it. We're going to see in the next 25 years a complete revolutionary change in how we look at things and how we do things because of that next generation. They're going to lead the way. They have to. They literally have to. I mean, the old dichotomy where the old people who seem to know best, who seem to, have the right answers, it's becoming obvious that they're motivated by only greed, only their own self-possessions and things like that. They don't care about, the greater good. They don't care about the collective. And that's the kids growing up, they are very into that. They are very into, being, part of this larger group that really is capable of doing things because, that's what I really like that this next generation is growing up on. I mean, we have a whole generation of anarchists because they grew up loving Harry Potter books, right? So they really believe that they can go out there and change the world. And I have literally seen this. I've seen these kids go out and, just take charge. Now, I'm not saying that kids haven't, all along throughout the history of, whatever activism there is, because that's always been the case. But I'm seeing it in a more collective and unified way. And, I know it seems like impossible now, but I really believe that, and I wouldn't be, getting up every day and fighting as hard as I do with Operation Save the Earth if I didn't. I really, really believe that this next generation, if we empower them the right way going forward, that they can really be the ones that turn this thing around. And I'm not just talking about Fukushima. I'm talking about the whole thing. I mean, you talk about it all the time, Lonnie. We have a current administration in Washington that is very anti-environment, right? They don't believe in climate change. They think that pollution is great. Whatever, is going to make money for whichever fat cat, fill in the blank, right? But, they're getting pushback all over the place on the state level, on the local level. And who's doing it? Who's leading the charge? It's the ladies of the community, the moms out there, because why they're worried about their kids. The kids are seeing moms doing the work, and they're saying, hey, I want to be part of that too.
That's the interesting thing, is it really is a lot of the women are really pushing through this movement and being more. This is a hard thing for me to comprehend, like why that attitude. And maybe it's because women give birth, and maybe it's because we see generations, 3-4 generations down the line, that this is very, very critical. This is not something we can just choose to ignore.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was talking about on my show last week. I mean, to me, women have always led the way, especially in nuclear. I mean, look at Sister Megan Rice, all right? Her whole life, okay? And this is what has to continue going forward. Women literally are the keepers of life, the flame of life, okay? Y'all are important for, the species continuing, all right? And what do we have reports? What do we have studies that say it doesn't, you talked with Dr. Busby about this last week. Women and children are more susceptible to the effects of radiation. It doesn't matter if it's low-dose radiation. It doesn't matter if it's high-dose radiation. It's all the same. They're all going to be affected on a cellular level much more so than men are. That's, what the studies and reports have shown us. So why on earth, aren't all women on the planet saying, whoa, hold up, no more nukes, that's it. Finished.
You know why? I saw a pro-nuker last night I went to the COP, that climate planet change thing that's going on in Bonn, Germany.
Oh, yeah, sure, yep.
COPD or whatever they call it. Yep. I don't know what they call it. But there was a lady there who said she used to be, I saw a blogger, she said she used to be very anti-nuclear, and then her friend studied radiobiology or something like that. And this is what she was told by her friend, that there's no real danger with radioactive contamination seeping into the water, because radioactivity clings to the dirt. It doesn't get into the groundwater. Literally, that was written on her blog. Literally, this is what they are telling the students. This is what they're telling people to sell the pro-nuclear agenda. It is a pack of lies, and when you confront them, they're like, you are grotesquely misinformed. That was the old science. New science has shown us that it's very safe. It's a great alternative, and this is really what we're up against.
Yeah, and that,
they have convinced very educated people. These are not stupid people.
Yeah, no, see, that's been their MO the whole time, Lonnie. I mean, what does the pro-nukers do? They go out and they hire these people. They pay them to say this. They endorse this. Da da da. It's the same as having a football player sell a can of soup. All right, I want to get this individual. It looks like they know what they're talking about, and yum yum, this soup is really awesome. So everyone wants to buy the soup, right? It's the same deal. Oh, well, this professor is, has this reputation, blah, blah, blah. We're going to tell him that, this nuclear soup is really good. And here, everybody buy the nuclear soup, right? No. See, that's the thing, Lonnie. And I was talking about before, the kids, they don't buy that. They see right through that garbage. And anybody who's a Fuku fighter, they do. Okay? So, here's...
I think, Dave, don't you think there's three types of people? There's Fuku fighters, or people that are aware of it. There's people who don't believe it, who are really pro-nuclear, who believe in the, quote, new science. And then there's a whole bunch of people in the middle that are sort of like, don't quite know who to believe, don't really want to have to pay attention to it, choose to ignore it and say, if the government told me, if it was that serious, the government would... Like... You told me there's 1 million people still in Fukushima Prefecture.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought there was like maybe 300,000 at max.
Yeah, that's what I used to think too. But, I thought that after the disaster, a lot more people would have just fled. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people did. But these are people who had places to go, had money, and, were able to do so. Had the resources, basically. And again, in Japan... you have to remember that land is passed down from generation to generation to generation. It can be like hundreds of years that your family owns this plot of land. No matter what kind of disaster comes along, do you really think on a family level in Japan that people want to leave that plot of land that has been passed down from generation to generation? Absolutely not. The societal pressure to keep that plot of land is super, super important. And that the temporary, quote unquote, temporary housing units that they've been putting up to store all the radioactive soil and waste that they had collected along the roadsides. Well, they had to negotiate to get the land for that from people who had already moved out, and that's what took so long for these housing units to get built, is because these people were like, well, is it really temporary? Am I going to be able to get my land back at some point? Because again, it's a really, really important family thing in Japan. So, I'm not blaming the people who are still there, who are still stuck in Fukushima Prefecture. What my goal is, and what I want to be able to refocus Operation Save the Earth going forward, starting in 2018, is to be able to give the people who are still stuck there an option. If they want to leave, if they really, want to leave, but have up to this point have not had the resource, have not had the opportunity, have not had the place to go, I want to be able to work with NGOs in Japan, the people who are there already doing the good work, and say, look, let's find ways to get these folks out and get them vouchers, get them waivers, get them whatever they need to get away from those areas. Because, I don't know about you, Lonnie, but I look at videos literally every week of these hot spots all around Fukushima Prefecture that are well over what should be acceptable for anybody to be walking around in. If you're like out walking around in the forest, you are taking an incredible risk. If you're out, walking around on a hiking trail in Fukushima Prefecture in some of these radiated areas, you are taking an incredible risk. And I'm like, why? I mean, and the kids, if the Japanese kids and their parents are telling them, oh, it's okay, go out and play, they're going to get sick quicker. And we definitely saw that. I mean, we saw increased thyroid cancer rates across the board in Fukushima Prefecture. The rates of thyroid cancer in Fukushima Prefecture compared to the rest of the country, it's like 10-1. The rate it's
Wow.
exploded. It's like, oh, and here's their argument. The so-called new science argument. Oh well, it's just we're just testing more, so that's why we're seeing more thyroid cancer. And that is the most ridiculous argument I have ever heard of. I'm like, really? So if I tested everybody in my neighborhood for the common cold, and I find out, well, I got 30% have the common cold. Does that mean that because of my testing, that common cold is now on the rise? No. Okay, that's ridiculous. All right. So, here's the reality. You live in Fukushima Prefecture, and if you're a kid, guess what? You're more susceptible to radiation. We just talked about that. Hey, you are in trouble. Okay, that means you need to leave. And if you're a mom, I know you're concerned. If you're a dad, I know you're concerned. If you're a grandma, I know you're concerned because these kids they're in harm's way, and it's not just in Fukushima Prefecture. There's other areas of Japan that were also hit with the radiation plume. So, it's a really sticky situation, and I just want the people of Japan to know this, okay, that they are not alone. Okay, there are people literally all around the world who are concerned for them on a daily basis, and we are continuing and will continue to work on their behalf forever. For as long as this Fukushima nightmare continues, which will be forever, we will be here. So we need to continue to bolster the ranks. We need to continue to push forward and make the changes that we need to. I mean, look at the alternative, Lonnie. If we stop right now, what's going to happen? I can tell you what's going to happen. It's simple. You can just write everything off. 15, 20 years from now, all of our efforts, nothing's going to matter. It won't matter.
I keep thinking about like the nuclear taboo. On my YouTube channel, I'm doing a nightly thing at 8:30 at night. I do it at 8:30 at night because that's like the first time I'm able to stop in the day.
Right.
So I do it at 8:30 every night for just a half an hour, and I'm calling it Breaking the Nuclear Taboo. Nice. Because it's kind of like what you're talking about. The same thing could be said to the people living next door to the Westlake landfill.
Yes.
I mean, there is no aid for them to be able to move away, no vouchers, some people want to sell their homes, some people want to keep their land for the same reasons that you were talking about.
Yep.
It's been in their family for like as generations. They are not about to just walk away. People feel a certain element of pride in where they live. They're grounded. It's part of who they are. It took me a while to comprehend this with the people of St. Louis, to be honest, because when I first heard about this story, I was like, dude, move away.
Right.
Like, just like pack your kids up and get the heck away. But it took me a while to really comprehend. They're not going to give away because for them, that's like giving up. And they are fighters. People are going to fight for their land. They're going to fight for their families. Mm-hmm. The sad part is they don't recognize that while they're fighting, they're poisoning their children and their futures. Like, we don't have a program here in the United States to move anybody out. I know people there that are living there in family homes. The reason they're living there is because they don't have to pay rent.
Sure.
You move a family of 4 to a place anywhere else. That's not, if you get a good job, let's say you're a professional, you want to move to another city, your rent for a family of 4 is going to be at least $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just an impossibility for some people. You might as well ask them to pay $1 million. I mean, this is where we're at, and I'm sure it's the same with many people in the Fukushima Prefecture. Where are they going to go? They just don't have the resources. Like, what do you do? And especially when you wake up every day and the sky still looks blue, the air feels great, the grass is beautiful green, the ocean feels wonderful. You get no indication that you're being poisoned. Life is great.
Yep, and that's what the Japanese government wants you to believe. It's to the tune of like, hey, let's have Olympic events there in 2020, right?
Let's have some surfing.
Yeah, let's have some surfing. Let's have some softball at the J Village. Let's have some soccer events. And it's like, hey, everybody, move back into the difficult to return areas. We'll send you some flying fried chicken, with some drones. Everything will be fine. That's the attitude there. Everything's fine. Everything will be fine. Da 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 da. That's the mantra. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. But you know what? Everything's not fine. You live in a radioactive area. And, there's always this argument, especially with the pro-nukers. Oh, you live in a radioactive world. You ate radioactive bananas. You have, cosmic rays bombarding you all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, there's a difference between naturally happening radioisotopes and artificially happening radioisotopes, ones that are created by man, ones that, are exploded from nuclear facilities. Okay, these are huge, huge differences. Okay, but you're not willing to talk about those. You're only willing to talk about your banana chips. And I'm here to tell you, folks, that is just absolute garbage. You guys really need to understand that the nuclear threat is a constant one, and you need to ask yourself this: how radioactive a world do I want to live in, really? I mean, these guys can say it's safe all they want, but I got tons of data and a whole armload of experts that will tell you otherwise. Anybody who wants to come to you, listener out there, and tell you that, say, oh, everything's fine, nuclear is safe, blah, 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 blah. All you have to do to beat them down with this argument and say, show me your data. Go ahead and show me your data, because our data is way bigger than theirs. Okay? We have literally years and years and years of history, case studies, expert testimonials. People literally, Hanford workers who will explain to you how badly sick they are because they've been exposed to this radioactive crap for years and years and years. So, if you want to, keep buying into that nuclear taboo, the myth, the mythology that they created, knock yourself out. Don't come crying to me when your kids have thyroid cancer, when you have breast cancer, when you have prostate cancer. Please don't come crying to me.
Well, it's not even just cancer. It's a whole host of things. You get autoimmune disease, you get diabetes, you get schizophrenia. John Kaufman and Arthur Tamplin showed that these were the first, besides having a higher increase of spontaneous abortions, which is miscarriages,
yes,
besides sterility, the first three things that shows up is schizophrenia and mental disease with anxiety, diabetes, and autoimmune deficiency issues.
Yeah, those
so
are
you'll,
huge, right?
I mean, and then when you're 50, 60 years old, you get cancer.
Then you get cancer, right?
Yeah, it's a progressive thing because it is cumulative. So it's like sandstone. Every layer weighs down on our DNA. That's kind of how I look at it. And it's a crapshoot. We just don't know who's going to get what. I mean, everyone's affected differently, but we do know it affects everyone. And this is the thing. At what point are they going to continue to suppress the solutions? Because frankly, there are solutions. We have the phytoremediation that is magnificent in helping stop it. There's sound energy that can reverse the molecules. I mean, there's things that we can do. So I think, this is the issue. This is why I really appreciate your podcast, because it's kept me going a couple of times, I have to say. Like, there's been times in the last few years when I'm like, forget this, man. I'm just going to go hiking. Like, I don't even care. And, then I'm out there in the forest and I'm like, I wonder how radioactive it is. I wish I had my Geiger counter with me.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is impossible to switch it off once you turn it on, Lonnie. But at the same time, you can't let hopelessness creep in. You have to remember, and I really appreciate, the fact that, what you said about my show, being encouraging for you. And I really hope that it is for everybody. I want all the Fuka fighters out there to be able to tune in and get something out of it. And I just want everybody to know this, if you think it's hopeless, if you think it's not possible, just remember this. Remember fracking? It was supposed to take over everywhere. Well, guess what? States and communities have stood up across the country and said no. And this is true across the world, too. Certain countries in Europe, certain countries in South America, they're like, we will have nothing to do with fracking. It ruins the aquifer, blah, 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 right? It basically poisons the well, with this, proprietary junk that they inject into the Earth's crust. It's all carcinogenic too, right? But people have stopped fracking cold in its tracks. Are there areas that are still being fracked? Yes. Is natural gas still being produced as a result of it? Yes. However, it is not a growth real industry because people, like I said, grassrooters have stood up in communities. My favorite incident was in New York State. The communities there that grew wine and other farmers. Because farming is such a huge industry, both in a dairy and just vegetable capacity there in New York. That they lobbied hard in Albany, and they said, "Hey, man, no fracking up here because we need this water." New York water has its own aquifer and it's really excellent. I grew up drinking that water. It's delicious. So when they stood up and said, no, and New York government said, okay, well, that's it. Here's the law. No fracking. That's significant. That should show you and everybody else out there that if we all put our heads together, if we put our shoulders down and really push together, miracles can happen and change can happen, and we can make this place livable for the future generations to come. And that's the key right there. That is really the key. We can't stop. Once you get woke, you can't go back to sleep. You can schedule fun for yourself, Lonnie. I think that's what's really important. You got to keep that stress off you as much as possible because that'll kill you just as quick as the radiation, right? So,
it's true.
Yeah,
I've taken your advice on that one. I'm starting to schedule fun into my life. That's one of the things that Dave said in his videos a couple weeks ago is like, make sure you schedule fun. And I'm like, wow, that was so profound. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm missing. So I actually do schedule a little bit of fun every week in my life. Like I'm just going to go to a friend's. Yesterday, I scheduled a little bit of time to go play ping pong with a friend of mine.
Right. See, that's awesome. I hope every Fuku fighter does that because, we fight so hard and we work so hard all the time. And I know everybody out there that does this, they're in the same boat with us. And my message to y'all is this, you are doing an amazing, awesome job that I know nobody thanks you for, but I'm thanking you for it every single day. You inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing. And if I know that together we are, I've seen it literally over the past 7 years, we've accomplished amazing things. Okay. The fact that people know about Fukushima at all is because of the work that you all are doing, the persistence that you all bring into this. And believe me, I want us all to be in this fight for as long as possible. I want us to all stay as stress-free as possible. I know that's incredibly difficult. But, folks, you got to do it. You've got to, keep that stress off you. We need you in this fight for as long as possible. It makes life worth fighting for, all those good times that we share with friends and family. So absolutely, please make that time for yourself and keep doing what you're doing.
Well, this is the important part to understand also, is like this is just part of, I think, living in the age of fission is we have to we're doing an about face, and we're looking at the trail of mess behind us. Yeah, we have this really great, wonderful lifestyle in the Western world of apparent constant comfort.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but if you look over your shoulder, what we're seeing, what the nuclear industry is, with the fracking, the fracking industry got stopped, Dave, because they could see it. Mm-hmm. Not because they had
and
high
smell
ethics.
It and taste it, yes.
Right. The reason nuclear doesn't get seen is just like that woman in her blog said, oh, well, the radiation doesn't go into the groundwater. It absorbs to the rocks beneath the earth, so it's perfectly safe.
Well, what I would recommend to people who, can't see, smell, touch, or taste radiation is to go to YouTube and pull up active radioisotopes that are under a spectrometer, because then you can really see how how radiation works and how there's like these just little explosions of energy that come shooting out, ching 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 ching, right? If people really saw what a radioisotope was capable of, I think they really start to see that for themselves. It's hard to, like, because it's so small, right? It's on a microscopic level. You can't see it. It's supposed to be invisible, right? But there's ways to see it. And I'm saying that, go find it for yourself. Because I remember when I first saw that, I was like, whoa, it looks like this nasty spider that's going to come and eat me. I don't want this thing near me. And I think, that really hit it home for me too. It's easy to, like, go, oh, well, this report says this, that report that says that. And, I can listen to a whole panel of experts who will tell me it's going to do this to you, it's going to do that to you. I remember Dr. Caldicott's symposium in 2013 and everybody showed up. It was great. It's chock full of information. But again, you can't see, smell, touch, or taste, any of the things that they're talking about. So, I think, people just need to keep that in mind, put that in perspective for themselves. Go find it. Go see for yourself, what it's like. And then if you really want to do a deep dive, go to a cancer center sometime. Go talk to some of the people who are fighting for their lives, either with chemo or other treatments that are out there, and see what the real tangible results are. It's really obvious to me now, Lonnie, because to me, I don't know a person that doesn't know somebody who has cancer or who hasn't been, affected by, Fukushima radiation one way, whether, if it's not just thyroid cancer, it's heart disease or any of the other things that you're talking about with autoimmune problems and things like that. Those conditions, they're like, the common cold now. It's like I said, people are getting cancer like it's the flu now. And it's like, oh, gee, where'd that come from? It's mystifying. I don't know where it could be coming from.
Right.
Really? Come on.
Right.
Come on. You can draw literally a straight line from the beginning of the nuclear era to today about the rise of cancer and all these other things,
Genetic mutations.
Sure.
I mean, we have so many handicapped children. I mean, we really have it is really outrageous. I get outraged when I see these cancer commercials, these deformed children saying, please donate your money. We have a rare genetic da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, this did not happen. And then the argument that the pro-nukers will say is that, well, modern medicine has allowed those children to live. In previous days, they would have died. That is so, we just did not have children like that. It's not true. We did not have mutated children. Like, when we look at the history of nuclear, we look at, like, the Marshall Islands, there's only like 68,000, 67,000 Marshallese left. I mean, they had more than double that population when the United States arrived. Mm-hmm. And, part of that whole secrecy, it's this nuclear secrecy, they do not speak out against it. They feel guilty, they feel bad, and their children are still affected. And that holds true with every community where there has been nuclear. In Hanford, people do not talk about it. Nope. Same thing. And the difference with St. Louis is they have this burning, and even the moms of Westlake Landfill and the people of Coldwater Creek, they get demonized in the news.
Sure.
It's because you can't see it or taste it. This is a thing. If it was fracking or like the Flint water where the water is brown, you can see that. Yeah. But with nuclear contamination, you have to be able to hold it into your mind. It's like Heidi Lambert said, we can't comprehend how infinitesimally small the radioactive nuclear atom is. Like how tiny it is and how deep it goes into if it can pierce our body, think of how tiny the molecular structure is. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, try not, that's really the key right there, Lonnie. Try not to look at it like that. Try to look at it as the same as the eggs in Cool Hand Luke. Remember that scene in Cool Hand Luke where, Paul Newman's knocking down the eggs? He took a bet and he's like eating eggs, he's just piling on the eggs, right? Well, if we all ate one egg during 3 Mile Island, and we all ate one egg during Chernobyl, and then we had to eat 3 eggs because of Fukushima Daiichi. And, there's people who had to eat 70 eggs or something like that back in the 60s when there was all that nuclear testing going on. Marshallese, they talk about eggs, those people are stuffed full of them, right? And there's no going back, right? And
Right.
So, folks, you got to really look at this, from that perspective. You're ingesting this stuff, and it doesn't pass through normally. I mean, yes, if you're having a banana and you have the radioisotopes that come in that, guess what? The body has figured out a way to naturally take that potassium 40 and go, okay, here's what we're going to do with it. Okay, choop, it's gone. It doesn't affect the body. I mean, if you ate 8 gazillion bananas, it might have an effect on you, but good luck eating those 8 gazillion. Okay, you'd have to be like the size of King Kong to be able to put those things away. That's not even realistic. So, being able to understand radiation and how it affects us, I understand, because you can't see, smell, or touch or taste it. Does not mean that it's there. Does not mean that it's not affecting you. Does not mean that it's not all around you at all times. So, it's like anything in life. You have to be aware of your surroundings. Know what your environment is. You can put blinders on very simply and just keep chugging down the road all you want. But if you're walking the beach and you're going, gee, how come there's all these dead birds here? And how come there's no sea stars anymore? And man, look at that starving sea lion over there. Hey, that's you and your environment starting to put 2 and 2 together. Okay, there is some serious issues going on all around us. And it's not just nuclear issues, not just the fracking issues, not just, what's going on in these areas like Hanford and St. Louis. It's literally all around us.
Right.
So, you got to, really just be conscious of that. Now, does this mean everyone should go out and buy dosimeters and Geiger counters and be prepared for themselves? That's your choice. I would recommend, what I have been recommending this whole time is watch what you eat. That's the number one thing,
Mm-hmm.
You've heard, everyone grew with it, heard this growing up. You are what you eat, right? You have to have a good breakfast in the morning, blah, 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 right? All this stuff, right? But, if you, look at the research, what you put in your body is the number one thing that you need to be aware of. So if you keep putting junk food in your body, guess what? You're going to get diabetes, or heart disease, or any of these other, things that come along with that, right? But if you eat, good, clean food, if you, eat, fresh, farmer market, produce, hey, guess what? You're giving your body a chance to thrive and survive and fight off infections, fight off things like this. Take your supplements, know how to protect your body against the extra radionuclides that we have to suffer with all the time, right? There's little things, little tiny adjustments that we can make every single day, to safeguard ourselves, put up a shield, to protect ourselves just a little bit from that.
I heard, who was it? The guy's name, Ralph Waters or something, Ralph Smart, I think his name is. He said recently, everything you put into your body is either helping it or hurting it. Just look at it like that. And it's very simple. If what you're going to consume or drink, is it helping your body? Because there's enough going on out there. We have a choice. We get to choose to live with joy and love, because we're living in this new. The idea of facing Fukushima doesn't mean that we can't be content and happy and enjoy our lives.
Yes.
It means that we have to be aware of what our new environment is. The man-made, radiological, toxic environment that the planet Earth is hanging on by threads from what we've known. Like, if we all get exterminated, the planet's going to be here. We don't know what it's going to turn into, because we've contaminated it to the point where life as we know it can't exist.
Just as dinosaurs.
It's going to transform into something.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
So, but the point is, as a human, I want us to live.
Yeah,
I want our planet. I want to be able to have my children swim in the streams and swim in the ocean, instead of telling them, having a world like Waterworld. You know what I mean? That's not my idea of the future. That's not my projection of the future.
Not at all. And here's the thing I don't really understand, Lonnie. And I think it goes back to a little bit with what you're talking about, how we're comfortable now as a species, right? Um, mankind has been through a lot over the past several thousand years, right? And, we've scratched and clawed and been through natural disasters, wars, famine, plague, all this stuff. And, we've gotten to this place, where we have, these amazing technological advances. We live longer than we ever have. We've, had these advantages throughout the 20th century. And now we're starting to backslide here in the 21st century. We're starting to let it all go. And my question, my challenge to everyone out there is like, are you going to let this happen on your watch? Are you really going to be the stewards of the human race that let it go down the tubes on your watch? Because that I cannot do. I absolutely cannot let this happen on my watch. There's no way I could wake up in the morning, look at myself in the mirror and go, oh, I'm okay with myself. Not if I know that I can do something to save the populace, save the species, save life as much as possible. And
that is where we're at too. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Dave, we're really at that precipice, and yet we're demonized by people in the establishment who say, "Oh, we're just exaggerating."
Oh yeah, we're just exaggerating. Blah blah blah. And what are you, press, doing? Sitting on your ass, letting everything flow by, la la la, just like everybody else. That whole go with the flow thing, right? Well, guess what? Here, the stream has changed. Okay, after 3/11/11, that's it. Okay, the world will never be able to go back to the way it was before Fukushima Daiichi blew up. Okay, this is the reality that we live in now. We live in a post-Fukushima era. Okay, now here's the thing: 100%. Are we going to live in a post-Turkey Point era? Are we going to live in a post-Pilgrim era? Are we going to live? I mean, there's so many different other nuclear disasters that are just waiting to happen out there. And the longer we wait, the longer the math works against us, right? So again, how radioactive a planet do you want to live in? Do you want to be able to get up, go to work, and, before you go out the door, you got to put your gas mask on, or you got to put something, some type of radioactive resistant suit on before you go to work? Do you have to dress your kids in radioactive?
If that will even work, that's such.
That's what I'm saying. Can we get there? Can we get there? That's where we're headed, and I'm hoping that's not the case.
Well, that's the point of why we're out speaking out, because really what they're doing, like with this bill, HR 3053, literally we are selling our nuclear waste to private industry, literally. And literally the government will have no oversight over where it goes, and they will have complete autonomy to put it into any waterway or any piece of land that they see fit. And the community and the federal government will have no authority to tell them they can't do it. That's what the legislation states.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it for Scotty Pruitt and the EPA. That's all they want. They want to dump. They want to be able to free dump whatever crap, wherever they want, and, just make more money. And it's like, that's great. You guys are doing all this, amazing work for these corporations so that they could make a nickel that will last for, half a second. When, the reality is, we have a nuclear waste problem that is not being addressed, even though the industry will tell you, oh, well, we're, making all these advances and blah, blah, blah. The reality is, you should be focusing on waste management as job one right now going forward, because for the next X number 1,000 years, that's going to be your job. Okay, so if that's the future that really lies before us, hey, why not start preparing for it today? Industries, it's like, oh well, no, let's make our duck it now, because even if your attitude is like, well, we're screwed anyways, may as well just ride it out. My question to you is this: if that's your attitude, are you really doing all you can with your time then? I mean, seriously, if you think that everything's just screwed, what are you doing with your life? What are you really doing with your life? Because if that was my attitude, and see, that's kind of what it is, Lonnie. I was like, well, let's see, 3/11 happened. What am I going to do with my life? Oh, I don't know. May as well save the world as much as possible. Because I still want to do all these great things that I was doing before Fukushima happened. I want to do all these great things yet, and I want us all to be able to enjoy the incredible gifts that we share with each other on a daily basis. All the magic that we're able to create for each other and ourselves. Job one is giving back and making sure that the community is taken care of, right? What I've been trying to do, Lonnie, is try to get people not really to think about the negative part about it, because it's there, it's simple. You can really just get lost and get drowned in that, but that's not the attitude that I bring. Mine has always been the way of the host. I want to make sure that people got smiles on their faces and drinks in their cups, and everybody's having a good time. So I come at this from a party mentality.
Yeah, but that's kind of a fine line, Dave. Do you want to be party and be happy? But this is the point. I think what the whole point of what you're attempting to say is it's really bad out there, but there is still a lot to be grateful for and love life. Because guess what? Human to human, we are what matters. We have these relationships with the plants, the birds, the animals. Those relationships are real, and this is why we feel pain when we go to end times prophecy and read about the mass animal deaths that's going on right now. It hurts us because that's our brothers and sisters. Those animals dying around the planet, they're a piece of us on mass graves, washing up on shores. It's not just the loss of food. On an unconscious level, we recognize that these are huge schools of fish just being poisoned by something we have no idea what it is. It's exactly the Godzilla theory, right? Mm-hmm. Some monster is about to come walking out of the earth and just destroy humanity.
Yep. And if that happens, then so be it, but still, in the meantime, what are you doing with your life?
Right.
It's that simple, It's like, there's always excuses.
I guess this is the Guy McPherson point of view, though, right? This is Guy McPherson, it's really bad. Guy McPherson doesn't think we have 200 years if you listen to him talk.
Right. Yep.
But what he says is, you know what? The time we have is now. Let's just work hardest to find the solutions. Yes. This is the hard time. Because we might pull it out. We might be able to get it done. We might accomplish a task. But in the face of this great journey that we have, we can still enjoy our lives. We may be at the bitter end, but man, it's a beautiful life. But unless we keep a positive attitude, we are not going to find solutions.
You're 100% right about that, and so is he. If this is end times, like I said, let's go out with a bang, guys. Let's bring it as hard as we can every single day. And I know we all get caught up with our lives. We all got stuff to do. We all got family to take care of. We all got, really, really important stuff, every single day to do. And that's been my message the whole time. Y'all got 8 minutes, don't you? Y'all got 8 minutes to put on the superhero cape, get out there and, knock out some bad guys, because that's all it takes. If you train yourself real hard, 8 minutes is more than enough time to get out there and, hey, I'm on my mobile. Hey, look, here's some real Fukushima news that I got from, fill in the blank Fuku Fighter site. I'm going to share it with everybody in my social media circles. Ka-ching. 2 minutes later, everybody knows about it. Everybody, is more aware of the situation.
It puts pressure on the elected officials, too.
Yes. And, by sharing information on the web, you are doing a double dip service, because it's not only, you sharing with your peeps, the bots that eat up the information that gets shared, they have to circulate that into the algorithm, too. Y'all got to remember that, that is just as important as sharing the information within your social media groups. Just put that information out there so that the bots can come and feed off of it and put it in the algorithm. Why do you think Fukushima people know about it today?
And why do you think that I immediately found that website with this pro-nuclear lady when I was looking for some nuclear news? Mm-hmm. I found a blog with a lady who was very convincingly saying she got convinced by somebody who studied it to say, oh, it's perfectly safe now. So I want to read a poem before we leave by Lao Tzu. What you were saying reminded me of this from The Way of Life by Lao Tzu, translated by Witter Bynner. It's number 75. It says, people starve if taxes eat their grain, and the faults of starving people are the fault of their rulers. That is why people rebel. Men who have to fight for their living and are not afraid to die for it are higher men than those who, stationed high, are too fat to dare to die.
Yep. So that's exactly what we've been saying all along here, Lonnie. We have the dare to be great situation sitting right in front of us. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. If everyone had jumped on this Fukushima thing from the jump, like the people did in New York for fracking. If everyone just said, no, oh my gosh, la la la, instead of listening to the TV saying, Michio Kaku saying, oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. Dr. Oz saying, oh yeah, don't worry, Mom and Pop America.
President Obama saying things have been taken care of.
Oh yeah, you'll be the first to know, Mom and Dad America, as he flies off to South America. Look at the reality behind what the mainstream is telling you. Your kids already are. Okay? Look at that reality and then make that conscious choice for yourself. Are you going to be a superhero or are you going to be a chump? Okay? Because these are your only two options really at this point. So to me, I'm here to tell you, being a superhero is a hell of a lot more fun than being a chump because, you get lots done. You make amazing friends. I mean, all the Fuku fighters are like super cool, amazing people all around the world. And the COPD folks, you keep making noise over there. We got a long ways to go with climate change. We got a long ways to go with fixing the pollution problems we have. I mean, Fukushima is, to me, still the number one environmental issue that we have to face. But I mean, there's tons and tons of other issues out there that are a part of this greater contribution. And I think people just need to look at things on a larger scale. Don't worry about the little tiny, minutia part of things. Look at things on the larger collective scale and understand how each of us, how we're all hurting each other by allowing this nuclear nightmare to continue, by allowing all of these other toxins into the air, into the water, and things like that. We have got to fight for each other, for at the very least, because one day mankind's going to wake up and they're going to find themselves all alone in this world. No more cows, no more kitties, no more dolphins, no more nothing. And is that what you wanted? Is that what you meant to do, mankind? Because believe me, you're going to find yourself real lonely if that's the case.
It's that Ayn Randian attitude that, they can, even if we, they have the right to kill all. And if we have to raise our food all in fish farms and food farms, and that's how it's supposed to be because we have a right to do it.
Yeah,
but you know what, Dave? We're out of time, man. We've got less than a minute left. I can't believe it.
The time always flies.
Thank you, Dave. You've been listening to Dave Parrish from Operation Save the Earth. Please subscribe to him. Go to his website, Operation Save the Earth, and subscribe to his YouTube channel, Dave Parrish, and listen to his Fuku Fridays. They're completely awesome, quite inspiring. Thank you, Dave.
My pleasure.
I want to thank our affiliate in Eugene, Oregon, KEPW, for continuing to share our show. We really appreciate all of our listeners. Please take some action. Put your courage feet on. It really is up to us, and we really can save our planet. Take care, Dave. Thanks.
Battle on, Fighters.